What is up? I wanted to give a big update. My last video was almost 6 months ago, like 5.5 months ago, and I kind of went through some of the things that I'm actually going to show are done now that I was planning last time. So basically, the whole electrical system of the car is done. Starting at the back of the car, everything but the ground for the battery, because I didn't want to actually hook the ground up yet, just for safety, in case something were short or something like that. But otherwise, battery's all done. I showed that last time. But this time, fuel cell, fuel pump, and fuel level sender are totally terminated, wired, and even routed all nicely. I was actually able to utilize the factory harness runner here and kind of location all the way down the car. And that's really nice because it allowed me to keep everything protected inside this. This is like a kind of like a hard plastic sleeve here that runs all the way down. And that's really nice, and it keeps it safe in here. And then I'm going to have my door sill plates covering that. And that runs all the way up under my new dash, got this whole piece installed now. So the dash bezel itself is actually from Classic Dash. You can find them on Classic Industries and a few other places. And I have a few different gauges in here. I got an AEM wideband. I've got, if you can see there, glow shift, auxiliary gauges for everything from oil pressure, water temp, all that sort of stuff. Also boost gauge. And then my tack and speedo are from Speed Hut. These are basically custom spec'd. A little optimistic here. 200 miles an hour, 10,000 RPM. We'll see if that ever happens. I did want at least, this engine will eventually turn at least 8,000 RPM, and it's a bit of a pipe dream to go 200 miles an hour in this car, like way down the line. So we'll see, but basically these are the last set of gauges. Hopefully this car will ever need. I am planning on maybe making some changes to the steering column here, but for now, the way that it's set up is basically, as I showed last time, if I can get in here, I had not yet had my switch panel installed yet, but it is now. It's not fully bolted in just because I don't have the bolts in it, but I do have riv nuts installed for it, so it is ready to go, and I have battery cable ran all the way down, fully ran and terminated. The only thing that's left for this is that when the tunnel is fully installed, I am going to have a few wire management components riv nutted into this as well. Just want to wait until this is all ready to go and I can paint it, just once and be done with it. I got a couple things that I need to mount on top of it as well. At that point, I have my fuse box, relay box, everything is terminated, ready to run up there. I'll show that in just a second. But yeah, my switch panel ready to go. Everything's super, it's just so satisfying just to throw these big switches and stuff. And my IRP short shifter. This is a BMW short shifter, and it's kind of loosely bolted here, but I have a DSSR. This is actually a garagistic DSSR. I believe it's for an E36. I'll find the part number and maybe put it on the screen. But if you follow me on Instagram, you can see that I found that it was the right length that I needed overall, and I just had to put I think it's like a 35-degree bend or something like that in it, and it's currently set up. My coworker was able to help me get the selector joint bushing put in and machined down for it, and just listen to this. And it even goes into reverse. I am super psyched for this. This is going to be one of the coolest things about the car, just driving it around. And that's with the tunnel, not like fully in yet. I still have to finalize this patch panel that I have for this part and then actually attach the tunnel down. That's why I got this strap here just to temporarily feel things out. But I am just super excited. I've got basically the entire electrical system is done except for a few ground straps. I've got the switch for my halo lights ready to go, and I even have a new knob for my headlights, which is neat because the car never had one. I always just had to pull this little stick, which actually kind of hurts because it's got like threads on it, sort of, and they're actually kind of sharp. So moving to the front of the car, everything is a mess. There's tools and parts and stuff everywhere, but I had the front of the car actually installed and worked on intercooler piping. I actually have my upper and lower radiator hoses now. These are off-the-shelf pieces from O'Reilly's, you know, just simple stuff. I did have an interesting thing here, though, that because this is the radiator that was in the car previously, this is meant for a V8, like a stock application. So the hose was one size, like 1 3/4 on the bottom and maybe 1 1/2 on the top. Well, the JZ engine has, you know, it's common to have the upper hose be slightly smaller than the lower hose, but these two sizes are two different sizes from those two sizes. Up here, I was able to squeeze this hose on just fine, but this is such a big difference. This is 1 1/2, and this is 1 3/4, and there was just no way it was going to work. So I actually have, you can kind of see it in the middle here, a barb adapter from ICT Billet that allowed me to take one off-the-shelf piece and adapt it to another off-the-shelf. I had to trim them both down, but now it's kind of hard. I won't squeeze it in there right now because it's kind of hard to get it in there. But if you check out my Instagram, you can see it has just a perfect run down, misses the frame by just a hair, right around the alternator and right into the lower neck of the radiator. So I'm super excited for that. Also have some turbo lines, you know, just grabbed a few hoses from O'Reilly's again that basically were able to work out. You know, the intake runs right through here as well, and everything clears nicely. I even have my PCV breather hose routed, ready to run. Got the exhaust heat shield off right now. Going to be cleaning that up for later on. I've got both my O2 sensors ready to go and integrated everything. I've deleted everything that was unneeded from the stock harness and added a couple things, moved a couple things. My friend Kashoy, you can check him out. You know, he has a really nice AE86 on his Instagram. You can check out if you love those. He helped me strip down, re-terminate like all this stuff and get it all just beautifully ready to go here with the Tessa harness tape. And, you know, it's just a thing of beauty to just see something that's like, it's a stock harness. I stripped out a bunch of extra stuff that I wasn't using, you know, some extra sensors and such. And also moved the MAF sensor harness to the side because the MAF sensor is going to be somewhere around here, floating here. I've got, you know, all the piping and everything over there. I also have started stripping stuff off the intake manifold and eventually going to be cleaning that up, plugging a couple holes, that sort of thing. But that'll be for later on. I have my oil pressure and temp sending units all installed on I deleted the factory oil cooler thing, whatever you want to call that. Like I think it's more of a warmer. It runs coolant through it, but it's big, it's obtrusive, and it's just, you know, super ugly too. So deleted that, and I have, you know, a typical sandwich plate here and got that all ready to go. And, you know, everything is going to be, it's a little tight in some spots, but it won't be too bad. Also got another couple hoses, you know, together to delete the heater core. There's some debate about how to do this, but it seems like this will be the safest, simplest thing for now, just looping it from one side to the other while leaving the hard pipe in place. If you can see it, there's a hard pipe that runs from the water pump around. It's a whole thing, but I have the proper hose right under here. I actually got this from Australia. It's a little dark in there, but basically it bypasses the oil cooler, factory oil cooler. It just loops right over, and then it basically keeps everything running the way that it would stock, but without the extra components that I'm not using. So that's pretty nice. I also got my front end harness, I guess you could say, all cleaned up and ready to go. Things for like the turn signals and side marker lights are kind of hanging out. I might add some wrap to them eventually, but one big thing was the factory bulkhead connector here. I actually was able to essentially delete the entire left side here because that was all factory engine stuff that I wasn't using, and then delete a few things that I'm not using on the front end side, and then I added some liquid electrical tape to seal everything up. I thought it came out pretty good. They're potted connections from factory, so they're kind of ugly anyways, so it's not much different from factory. Unfortunately, the left side that also has, you know, it actually clips into the right-hand side connector. That side has the bolt on it that actually bolts it into the bulkhead, and I can't find it. I'm hoping to find it or find a replacement. If you know of anywhere that I can get just that left side, just the plastic part, I just need it to basically attach this because this just slides in and out, and the other side actually has the bolt on it. I set it down somewhere. It's possible it fell into that trash can, actually. I don't know. I'm hoping I can find it, but I've been looking for it and I can't find it, so we'll figure that out as we get there. I've got my fan power setup ready to go here. One big thing I wanted to do was to make sure that I could take the front end off kind of like this without like doing anything crazy. So I wanted there to be disconnects for everything. Now this bulkhead is factory, and the things that I had added originally didn't have disconnects. So I still want to trim this and terminate it when everything is installed finally, but I have a little stud that's gonna install right here with the rib nuts after I clean up the firewall and paint it and everything. And then that's going to bolt on, so I have a nice hefty connection for, you know, some 20 some odd amp draw fan. I also have a single wire connection for my halo lights here. So basically it's like 1, 2 connections, pop the bulkhead off, and then I can unbolt the whole front end, you know, intercooler pipes, upper and lower hoses, boom, the whole front of the car comes off. I could probably have it disconnected with a friend in probably 15, 20 minutes at the most. I'm of course planning on cleaning kind of like all this stuff up, gonna scuff and shoot it for now probably, and figure out about degreasing the frame and such in front, but we'll get to that at a later point. I have the whole front harness. The things that I wanted to add are added in. Some things for the halo lights that I wanted to set up a little bit nicer. Got like little bullet connectors and such. Good grounds for the headlights and the halo lights as well, because those weren't amazing before. The factory grounds were kind of chewed up, so I re-terminated that. And I have real metal-to-metal contact here, and gonna paint over that eventually. And harness wrapped everything, got everything, you know, set up nicely. I've got my fan connector. I invested in the good stuff. Deutsch connectors, if you know what those are, you know they're not cheap, but they are really good. They're all-weather connections, and as long as you have the tools to install them and such, that is the way to go. I had to get some special terminals for the amperage for the fan, but I also am using them in a couple other spots, and I'm really excited for that. Started cleaning up the heater core area. I actually was able to flatten this flange all the way around. Super easy to do if you have the right tools, which I will give just a plug here. These things are crazy. We have them at my work, and I was like, wow, these are really useful. I should get some of my own. And they are way more universally versatile than you would expect. They're initially meant to be used as like sort of like channel locks. It's not quite the same thing because they don't have teeth. They're a smooth jaw adjustable wrench, basically, but different from a crescent wrench. You know, you can put pressure on it, but also when you have them adjusted down all the way, you can put a lot of leverage in there, and it almost becomes like a little press in here, and you can actually use it to manipulate sheet metal really easily, which is what I did with the tunnel, and I used a combination of that, hammers, and other such things, but that's how I got like this nice curve in here for the tunnel that actually hugs it, you know, all the way around when it's sitting down properly. It helped me adjust the angle of these flanges here to get it to fit to the tunnel nicely, and you know, it also is all contoured nicely in there, and just really recommend something like that to help if you've got projects going on. But yeah, that's basically where we're at today. I'm going to be working on, actually, another quick thing. I actually have the harness ran through the firewall. I have a grommet this grommet actually came with the JZ engine from Japan, so I was able to actually utilize that. I stuck a hole saw in the firewall there, and it works great. And I have the ECU in the original box as well, also mounted up. I made some brackets. Not sure if you could see them up in here, but I made some brackets. There we go. A few different ones, and was able to mount this. I believe it's supposed to be under the dash somewhere in the stock application or whatever. I also have the igniter mounted. I've got alternator with a fuse and all the connections as well. I can show it on the other side. And everything is basically ready to go. I've got the battery stud up in here as well. It's kind of a mess in here, but you can kind of see everything is set up though, ready to go, and it's kind of out of the way so that once I have everything finally installed, this will look a lot cleaner here. And then these guys are not terminated again because I have to mount them, trim them to length and such before I land them in the fuse box, but those will be there, and I'll still have some room on the console if I need to add other stuff. Maybe a handbrake or something down the line, we'll see. But got plenty of room for that. And yeah, I'm gonna be working on actually getting the tunnel hard mounted today. One thing I need to do is add basically like a sandwich plate. I want to make sure that this shifter doesn't deform the tunnel over time. So I've got a plate of aluminum that I'm just going to trim down, drill some holes in there, and just have it kind of sandwich in there. And I need to trim this hole just a little bit because if you could see, like when it goes into reverse, it does rub just a little bit. And then finalize, double, triple, quintuple check the location of the tunnel before I actually drill it. And then that'll be finally installed, and then I can work on things like that patch panel and then mounting up those boxes and such, because their location is kind of restricted due to the cables behind them. So if the tunnel moves underneath them, I don't want to put too much strain on the cables, so that's why I'm waiting to mount those, but they're otherwise all terminated, ready to go, except for the big power cables. And I know last video I think I said, oh yeah, in a month or two, 5 months later. But, it's been a very busy summer, lots of, stuff going on, and the weather has been a little insane lately. If you've been in SoCal in the last month or two, you know what I'm talking about. 105, 108 degrees where I'm at times, and that basically makes it impossible to work in here. I've actually had to set up a fan to blow the AC air from the house into the garage to make it cooler. But luckily today the weather is actually pretty nice this weekend, and I'm gonna get as much done as I can. I still have to run the fuel lines themselves. I started running one, just basically starting it. I need to mount my bulkhead connectors that are gonna go about here somewhere, and I'll have a nice smooth run for there, and then be able to run them under the car. Still need to take the original fuel line out. Still have not done that. But once I get all that done, honestly, it's just a fuel system. A couple things with the turbo oil lines. The big thing is the drain, because it needs to go from here to behind the engine mount. You can just see the hole right there where my finger is. That's the flange for the factory drain location on the oil pan. Kind of see it from up here too. It's too dark, but whatever. And that one might be a little challenging for a couple of reasons, but I'm hoping it's not too bad. So gonna try to figure out some stuff for that this weekend as well, if I can, if I have time. But my biggest priority is going to be the tunnel, of course, because that's a big mechanical thing that's going to take some time, and it's going to take a lot of drilling and such as well when I'm in there. Might need to hammer a few more things because I certainly haven't done enough of that on the car. But I'm glad that I'm at a point where the front of the car can now come off. Once the tunnel location is settled, then I can pull the engine out actually that'll actually allow me to work with the oil drain and such actually easier, because it doesn't have to clear anything on the chassis. Really, I can actually leave the engine mount bolted in place, and that'll simulate, I'm not having to clear the subframe or anything, so I don't need to know where the subframe is, so I can actually do all that stuff on an engine stand. That'll be much easier. And then I can do all the gaskets, clean up the engine a little bit. I want to Scotch-Brite, clean up the exhaust shield, and thinking of maybe buffing these down to a more of a satin finish, just to kind of match the theme of everything. If anybody knows where to get a new cover, I've seen some for crazy prices on eBay and such, but I might do that, and then clean some things up like the fuel rail and other things, and basically everything else in the car, just kind of re-black it and just make it more uniform basically. But yeah, I just wanted to get another update because it's been a while since the last one, and I just show that I am still working on it, of course. Life happens, but I'm really hoping to be able to have it ready to go before the end of the fall, and definitely before the end of the year, because it's time. It's definitely time. I actually had a dream that I was test driving this recently, and I woke up and I was just like, that was surreal. One of the freaky things is the shifter in my dream felt, I hadn't installed the shifter yet. I'd only test fitted it and it was loose because there was no bushing and such. In my dream, it was tight and it felt exactly like it does now, which is a little creepy. But hey, maybe it's premonition. It sounded awesome too. The engine and such sounded really cool in the dream, so maybe that'll happen too. But follow me on Instagram at newspin, and give me a subscribe. It'd be nice to kind of grow the channel a little bit, and have some fun. And I'll see you the next time.